In the summer of 2010, I was approached by a very unusual man. The story of that contact is described by him in this interview. I've called him Charles. He spent many years working for the elite group that considers it their responsibility to run the planet. He's not an academic, a historian, or a scientist. But he wanted to communicate some important information about the worldview and philosophy of this group from their point of view, what they're trying to achieve, why, and how. He and I have established a friendship based on mutual respect. In this interview, Charles explains his own agenda. What he wants to see is what he calls a fair contest. There's a great deal of material that was not covered in this interview. It is, to some degree, the start of a dialogue. The group of 33 that Charles works with is indirectly using this opportunity to communicate. I've reported this communication as accurately as possible. As is normal journalistic practice, some of the information was asked to be off record at this stage. As you watch this interview, you will see that there are a great many unanswered questions. I would like there to be a further interview, but any decision about this is not mine to make. For me, the second half of 2010 has been an interesting time. It's culminated in this opportunity to communicate indirectly through this video and through Charles himself with the group of people who are running the planet. And this is what I'd like to take this opportunity to say. I understand the history and context that Charles has explained, some of which is in this interview. But there is another way. If you are to be the true leaders of the planet, you can be the captains of Spaceship Earth with responsibility for the entire human family. There can be a massive clean-up operation. You know that the technology exists. Between us all, this can be done. Clean water, clean air, clean oceans, free energy, abundant wildlife, health and education for every human being. Planet Earth could be a paradise planet, a model for this sector of the galaxy. The human race is a massive long-term experiment. This information, confirmed by yourselves via Charles, will not be new to many of those watching this video. Charles has explained that the extraterrestrial race who initiated this project are letting everything unfold with a philosophy of non-interference. It's arguable that the optimum conclusion for all, an outcome that would delight those whose project this is, would be for the human race to take responsibility for itself and show just what they can do. Your legacy to remain for time immemorial, here and elsewhere, could be: we cleaned up the mess. We inspired and funded the world's brightest and best from every nation to work together to solve the problems. We fully restored this beautiful, magnificent jewel of this solar system. Look what we did when the entire human family, organized, focused, and under inspired leadership, worked together to show just what could be done. So this is Bill Ryan from Project Avalon, and it is Saturday the 18th of December 2010. And this is one of the more interesting interviews that I've ever had the privilege of conducting. With me is a man who I've given the pseudonym Charles. And as the name suggests, he's very English. And for reasons that will become apparent as you start to watch this video, he has graciously declined from being filmed with his face on camera. You will hear his voice, which will be unedited and unfiltered, and what Charles has to tell us on record may be one of the more important stories that you will have heard for quite a long time. And this is very unrehearsed, as they all are. And first thing I want to do, Charles, is to thank you. And I really mean that, because I didn't know this was going to happen until it actually happened. And as an introduction to our viewers here who are only seeing the back of your head, what are you willing to say about who you are, the nature of how we connected with each other, and the nature of your work?
Well, if you want to start with who I am, you'd need to start quite early on, wouldn't you?
Okay.
Because otherwise it doesn't make sense how someone from Hackney gets to where he is.
And for the benefit of the Americans, where's Hackney?
It's basically, if you're a Cockney, you're born within the sound of Bow Bells, and I was born in the Bow mother's home, so I'm a Cockney. It's in East London, and that's where I am. I'm a Cockney, but I'm from a very working class family. But I haven't ended up in a working class situation through my own determination, and some would object to the kind of determination I've used, and they'd be quite right. So I didn't go through usual avenues, shall we say. But in early life I started as a football hooligan. I was then recruited by a fascist organisation. I realised as my education grew, your education grows in life. And as I got older and wiser, I realised that I was actually more useful to them than they were to me.
And you were being watched this whole time, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, yeah. Right from a very early age. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that until many, many years later. And I know that you've had other people that you've spoken to in the same situation.
Yep.
And I wasn't aware of it. It was quite... Well, it wasn't a shock to find out, actually, because I always knew that there was something odd about me. And you hear that a lot. You hear a lot of people, you know... I'm saying it with realism. There really was something odd about me. I think, well, you've met me. What do you think?
I think there's something very odd about you.
Okay, so...
I say that as a joke.
Yeah.
Let me... Odd sounds disparaging.
Okay.
Let us say unusual or even special.
Okay.
Would that be fair words to use?
Yeah, I'm not really into blowing my own trumpet in that respect, you know. Odd seems happy to me. My vocabulary isn't as good as yours, so
let's say
I'm not formally educated.
That's not a crime at all, and it's not your fault.
But I'll play you chess.
And you probably win.
I'll give you a run for your money.
I bet you would. But you have talents and abilities and characteristics that are unusual.
Yeah.
Would that be a way of describing
Yeah.
it? Yes, rather than say odd.
Yeah.
Let's say that you have particular abilities that attracted the attention of some people who had reason to call upon those abilities later. Is that right?
I have natural abilities, and that doesn't make me special. There are others like me, you know. You've got athletes, etc. Thinkers, maybe, you know. But yeah, I'm fairly quick in a very stressful situation. I'm not big of physical stature, but that doesn't matter at all.
And you haven't been in the military, have you?
Never.
But you're the kind of person who the military would love to get their hands on and turn into one of the...
My natural father was very high up in the military.
Okay. But you're probably the kind of person that the SAS would love to get their hands on.
They are physical soldiers. They wouldn't have a chance against me because they'd already be ill before they even met me.
Right.
I would weaken them before I dealt with them.
Right.
They're playing a completely different game. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to win. You know.
Yeah. It's all over before they turn up, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I would already have done my homework long before that.
Okay. So we were talking about that because what I was trying to do is to paint a picture of your characteristics, and one of the ways to describe your role is a kind of quasi-military role.
Fair to say.
Is there anything that you would like to continue saying about how you, let's say, what happened between those younger years when you weren't sure about what was going on in your own life, but you became increasingly aware that there was something going on around you, and other people seemed to know something about you that you didn't. And then sometime between then and now, all of that came into focus.
That's right. Well, where do you want to start? How far do you want to go back?
We've got all the time in the world here. People watching this will be fascinated already.
So in England, at that point in time in England, there was you had reform schools. They were commonly known as borstalls, and I spent some time in those. In fact, that's where I got any education that I did get, because it was drummed into me. It was the only way that I would listen long enough to be taught to read and write, etc. Because an ordinary school. What was also figured out was, interesting or not, I never paid attention at school. And considering what I said to you earlier on when we were off camera about numbers, I did a maths O-level. And the reason I did the maths O-level was that I was being segregated while they were figuring out what to do with me. So I was literally in a cell in the school most of the time, and they decided, a teacher that would, for some reason, was interested in me. It becomes apparent at a later date why he was and who he was. Decided to sit a maths O-level for me, and I got 87%. So it wasn't the fact that I couldn't be educated, it was the fact that I didn't want to be educated.
Right.
And I didn't even really know, because sometimes it enthralled me, school, and then other times it didn't. And obviously now with hindsight I know why, because what you learn in school is complete rubbish.
Sure.
Total rubbish.
And I would agree with that.
Well, I think it's pretty generally known. You know? We want you to think that way, and that's that. And I bash anything off like that, anything that I feel is constricting or someone's trying to control me will get a natural response from me, which is no, I don't want to do it. Yeah. Which can be detrimental to me at times, which is something I might need to know.
The picture that you're painting here is of a kid who's smart, who's uncontrollable, who can handle himself in any situation whatsoever, who and who's been watched from a very early age because of certain characteristics that he's not aware that he's got at this stage. And then, as I was saying, sometime between then and now, sometime in those years, those 10, 20 years, then things did become clear for you, and you found yourself a niche where you were able to do a job for some pretty important people, and you fitted the template that they were looking for to handle some problems really well. Is that a good description?
Yeah, it is. Apart from the find myself a niche, I didn't find myself a niche. It was very apparent that that's what I was being groomed for.
Right. Can you describe how you were approached? How it was that you...
Well, I wasn't actually approached.
Okay.
I was in the right place. I was in that casino. I was seen in that casino, betting that kind of money.
All right.
I was at that cocktail party. I provided things for a party.
So you're actually rubbing shoulders with these guys
definitely.
Without realising it.
Obviously, there was because the word gangster is bandied around about all over the place now, and that's not what I was. I didn't consider myself a gangster. I considered myself someone that does that sort of thing.
Okay.
Just like a teacher teaches, or soldiers.
Yes.
I did bad things.
Yeah.
And I didn't look any further into it than that.
Yeah.
And in doing those things, in fact, the first instance that I was asked to by someone important was to deal with a paedophile.
Okay.
So there's some, there'll be people in your audience who would applaud that.
Okay.
It was just another person, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
It was basically they had a nanny, and the nanny was fiddling with things he shouldn't have been fiddling with, and they wanted him dealt with, and that was the first instance.
Okay.
Where I was really asked to do anything serious.
And a euphemistic way of describing this is that you became very useful in making problems go away.
Yes.
Is that a way to describe it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But maybe you could go a little... You need to go back... It doesn't even become a problem when I'm involved.
Okay.
As soon as someone realises that they may see a situation come in a month's time, that's when I'm involved. And the situation never even arises.
Like to head the problems off before they become problems?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then you can... the earlier you deal with a problem, the less forceful you have to be. And any force or any real major action will attract attention. And you don't want any attention. That's the golden rule.
Okay.
No attention.
Gotcha.